This segment is sponsored by the Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online.
Last call, order anything at all. Here's to you and yesterday. I'm still in love.
What you're looking at is the video song for a great song called Last Call. It is written and sung and composed by our next guest, who is coming to us from one of my favorite cities on the planet. It is early morning there in Sydney, Australia. Great pleasure to welcome Gregg Arthur. Gregg, welcome to our city tonight.
G'day. Yeah, it is very early. You can see the luggage.
You know, I love it when a jazz singer gets up this early. That's always wonderful.
It's not natural. Yeah.
Hey,
you know that cream you can get for puffy eyes?
Oh, yeah.
It works.
Oh,
I've got
good.
puffy eyes.
I often have my glasses on. Thank God I need glasses because they cover that kind of stuff up. Hey, I got to mention, you've come to us in a roundabout way. I knew of you. I'd heard about you in Vegas. About 3 weeks ago, I was in Sydney, sitting in a cafe one day, and I see a two-page story in the Sydney Morning Herald on you, and I said, oh, that guy. Go back to my hotel, listen to your music, and I've been a fan ever since. So I want to talk about the stuff you do. You know you're doing something right when a guy like Tony Bennett says, and I quote, "I love the way you sing. You have a fan in me, and the way you phrase, it is perfect." Talk about your early days where you took lessons and guidance and had some wonderful mentors early on that led you to find your voice, which is very much uniquely yours.
Thank you. That's lovely to hear that. Thank you. Yeah, I had a great vocal teacher named Don Graydon, and he taught a lot of very good Australian singers. And he was a tenor, I think, early on, and sang at Covent Garden and all sorts of prestigious places. And a wonderful teacher with the grounding of classical music, operatic training. So I can hold a note.
You know, it's interesting, Stu, because you did a lot of stage work in your younger days, and one of the things I've been struck by listening to your music, whether it's you doing classic jazz standards or your own music like we just played, you have a great understanding of the movements of an orchestra. The orchestra is there to really support you, but you also do great standards, but you have an ability to make them your own without taking away the integrity of the original songwriter's intent. Walk us through the balance that you've clearly perfected when you're doing songs like Nature Boy or The Way You Look Tonight. Great stuff.
Thank you. Well, you've got to find your own truth in the song. So the lyrics of all of these songs from the Great American Songbook are beautiful. They're a piece of somebody's life has literally gone down onto the page. And when you're talking about lyricists like Lorenz Hart, there's so many layers to what they've written. You can find your own truths in the lyrics. So take a piece of your own life, put it into it, then study the arrangements, the orchestrations, especially if they're not written for you personally. If it's something that's been written for Sinatra or Nat King Cole and you're getting up in front of an orchestra and you're going to sing this, wow, yeah, you've got to find your own way through it. You've got to weave through that beautiful arrangement, pick out the places where you can be original and not try to ride on the shoulders of giants too much. It just takes a little time and sitting down at the piano and working on the arrangements and studying them.
It's interesting, too, that when I notice you do a great version of Nat King Cole's Unforgettable. I would imagine it must be kind of intimidating at times when you're taking a song like that, which is so associated with Nat King Cole, even though everybody's done the song. That's his. Do you find is it more intimidating, let's say, when you're taking on, and Sinatra has a dozen songs like that, but what do you want to do when you take a song like that, knowing it is so associated with an icon like Nat King Cole or a Tony Bennett or a Sinatra?
Well, first of all, change the key.
Yes, good point.
Yeah. I think tempo, rhythm, try to understand where you're going to go with it, that you can make it a little different for people without ruining the song that they love so much. That's important. I learnt that in Las Vegas. If you go too far, if you're working in a lounge and you go too far with the tune in a different direction and people don't recognize it, unforgettable. That's right. That's just awful. And then people don't react well to that. They want to hear that romantic tune that they love so much. But yeah, find your own way through it, like I was saying before.
Yeah.
It's very important.
It's like that person I saw years ago that did an upbeat version of Autumn Leaves. You just go, no. You don't do an upbeat version. So, hey, you mentioned Vegas, that's where I first heard of you. You had a long run there. You've been all over the planet. You played some great locations, including Vegas. I do want to get serious for a second, though, Greg, because I was touched by. There's been challenges. Everybody has them in life. You were about to record a new album a few years back and diagnosed with leukemia. You went home. Say you're in remission now and in good shape. You're recovered.
Yes.
Talk about that period in your life, and I don't want to sound cliche by any means, but did that affect the way you look at life and your music and your work nowadays?
Very much. It was a horrible interruption. Have you ever seen that episode of Seinfeld where they're about to get the pilot goes on? And George Costanza finds a thing on his lip and decides, okay, I'm going to be successful, so God's going to give me cancer. It's a really ironic episode for me. I watch it every now and then, and it's hysterical, but there's kind of that thing in the back of your head sometimes. You think you're just on a roll, what's going to happen? It was a horrible period because I was incredibly tired and finding it really hard to do anything, and was obviously very sick. But I had just met and made friends with Jorge Calandrelli, the incredible arranger and conductor. I was doing gigs with Brad Garrett at his club in Las Vegas, having so much fun working with such a funny man, and then singing jazz later at night after the comedians had got off stage. And Brad's a huge fan of jazz. He's a friend of Chris Boddy, and Brad plays drums every now and then. I was working with Tom Rainier at Herb Albert's jazz club up in Bel Air, and I was really on a roll. But sometimes things happen that make you stronger. And I'm well now. That's why I'm happy to talk about that period. I didn't talk about it at all while I was sick. I don't like that. I didn't want that to identify who I was. So I kept it to myself, but I'm well now, and very, very grateful. And I'm going to get back out there and hopefully come and visit you guys and work in Canada again. I love it over there.
We're going to hold you to that, sir. I'm glad you're well. And for our viewers out there that may not know Greg, check out GreggArthur.com and his latest album, Jazz and Cocktails. Lots of stuff to view on YouTube and on his website. And as I said, wonderful, wonderful singer. Sir, you really have mastered that art. It's been a great pleasure to talk to you. And yes, we look forward to seeing you here in Vancouver. Greg, thanks for joining us. And I want to shout out to Lionel, who's a big help, your PR people on the other side of the planet where you are.
Lionel Medford.
Yes. Greg, thank you, sir. Look forward to talking with you again.
It was lovely to talk to you. Thank you.
Cheers.
My one city of Sydney, I've never been.
This segment was sponsored by the Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online.